It's preparing to be live streamed. Okay, I think we are on. Great. Well, welcome everybody to the ones who are joining our first YouTube live stream event of Cotton Diaries, and happy World Cotton Day. Everybody, I'm Marcella Franchi. I will be your moderator for this session. And I'm the co-founder of Cotton Diaries, which is a decentralized community of cotton professionals that are working to advance cotton sustainability. And so today we're going to talk about cotton subsidies with two of our top experts here. So you can see on the bottom right, Mr. Sidibe, calling from Bamako in Mali. And I'm also joined by Dr. Sharma, who's joining from Delhi in India. And here on, I also have my colleague, Simon Ferrigno, who is going to be our French-speaking moderator from actually Derby in UK. So alongside the World Cotton Day celebrations, we at Cotton Diary, we felt that it was extremely important to put back on the table some of the concerns, let's say, that have brought this event to life. And they were mainly raised, this event was mainly born out of the need to address trade distorting subsidies and to level the playing field in the cotton industry. And actually the World Trade Organization hosted the launch of the first World Cotton Day on 7th of October 2019. And it was following an initiative of the C4 countries, as we call them. The C4 countries are Benin, Burkina Faso, Chad, and Mali. And their initiative was aimed at to make international trade in the cotton sector fairer. So today we're going to explore how our cotton subsidies, it's hard to say cotton subsidies, still a concern, and why are some African countries, exactly the C4 countries, asking to eliminate subsidies? What is the WTO, the World Trade Organization, role in leveling the playing field? And what should the textile and fashion industry be concerned about and actually act upon? So as probably some of you joining us today know me, I have a background in fashion design. And I've just begun really dive deeping into farming, both academically and actually practically. And I feel that as fashion professionals in this sector, we were never properly taught about the intersection of sectors. And actually, the reason why we're here, it's also because I want to explore how global trade and agricultural subsidies affect our supply chains, which we never discuss, at least in my fashion circles. And so to keep, to just a reminder for people like me that are tuning in here and are new to this subject is heavy. It's hard to understand. It's very brainy. So please keep patient, stay here with us, and just like take all your willingness to learn and understand this subject, because what we want to do here is that we want to make sure that we lean into the complexity, and because if we don't lean into the complexity, we don't understand how we can make this textile sector fair. So just some housekeeping rules. You can, I think you can put directly onto the live chat on YouTube your questions. We were going to be tackling at the end of the session. And yeah, so I'm going to start actually introducing our speakers. We have Dr. Sachin Kumar Sharma, who's an associate professor at the Center for WTO Studies at the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade in India. And he has more than 13 years of work experience with progressive responsibilities as an economist, a trade expert, but both at multilateral and regional levels. At the Center for WTO Studies, Dr. Sharma leads a dedicated team of lawyers and economists working on international trade issues with a key focus on agriculture. And then we have Mr. Sidibe, Youssouf Sidibe, from the Association of African Cotton Producers. He is an agricultural engineer who has worked in farmers extension, product support, and farmers organization in cotton, including training, workshop facilitation, supply chain analysis, and advocacy and lobbying on cotton, and producer representation at regional and international level as part of the APROCA, which is the Association of African Cotton Producers. So we have the honor to have Dr. Sharma, who will be giving us like a, let's say like a 15 minutes crash course on how cotton subsidies work right now, and they've worked in the past, and why we should care as an industry. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand over the mic to our expert here. And Dr. Sharma, you can share now the screen if you want, and yeah, and I'll be silent and learning. Thank you for joining. Unmute. I'm gonna unmute you. There you go. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Margia. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Youssouf, for providing me this opportunity on Cotton Day. It's very, very important day for millions of cotton farmers across globe, from Asia to Africa. So many farmers, poor farmers, are depend on cotton for their livelihood, for their food security, and many countries are depend on for their GDP growth on cotton. So it's really very important day. What I'm going to discuss about cotton is subsidies. Why this subsidy issue need to be discussed? Why we have concern about subsidies given by one country and how it impacts the farmers of other countries. So this issue I am going to deal in next 10 minutes. I will make my presentation in non-technical form so that general audience able to understand what are the real issue. I will try not to make it technical. I'll just make it very simple for all of you. Just my screens, yes. Now, you know that today is a World Cotton Day, and we are celebrating across the globe. However, the most important issue when we talk about cotton is the cotton subsidies and how it is going to impact, and it has impacted the farmers across poor countries. And why we need to discuss this issue, whether if a government provides subsidy to their farmers, whether it has impact on farmers of other countries, and if there is impact and how this impact we can assess it. So these are some of the issues I am going to discuss here. Now, the first important question: if a rich country is giving subsidies to cotton farmers, like just assume if US government gives subsidies to cotton farmer, why farmers in Benin or Chad or Mali, they have concern about that subsidies? The answer is very simple, that if US government is giving subsidies to cotton farmers, then what will happen? Then farmers there or big corporation, they will produce more cotton. And if they produce more cotton, then they will export in the international market. the subsidized export in the international market leads to depressed international prices of cotton, because poor farmers in Benin, Chad, and Mali, they don't get that much of subsidies from their respective government. They have to compete with the subsidized cotton in the international market. As the international prices depress, so the poor farmers of Chad, Benin, or C4 countries, they will not able to get good prices for their output. And what will happen? There will be a loss of farm income, there will be loss of livelihood security, and it also will impact their food security as well. So a subsidy given by one country has implication for other countries as well, due to the international prices of cotton. Now, question arises, if that is the thing, then which is the organization which is dealing on curtailing or disciplining or eliminating the cotton subsidies? Which are the organizations? Is the World Trade Organization based in Geneva, where there are 164 countries are there. So there are rules made by WTO which tell that how much subsidy a country can give to cotton producers or agriculture producers or agriculture farmers. Now, the rules are such that if government of Benin or Mali, if they have, let's assume they have enough money to support the farmers, then how much subsidy they can give to the cotton farmers? It is 10% of value of total cotton produced in Benin. That whatever the cotton is produced in Benin, the limit is 10% of value of that cotton. If Benin give more than 10%, other countries can challenge their policy. And if you are not able to defend it, then you have to eliminate that policy. But the same rule is not applicable for rich countries. For instance, US government for many years, they have provided subsidies, cotton subsidy, more than 70% of value of production of cotton. And they got this flexibility under the WTO, under the World Trade Organization rules. That's why many countries are saying or telling that WTO rules are biased against poor countries or poor farmers. That on the one hand, poor countries can't give subsidies. They can give limited subsidies, whereas the other countries can provide unlimited huge subsidy, not unlimited, huge subsidies to their cotton farmers. And rich countries can have the huge flexibility. Now, question arises, if assume the US government is giving subsidies to the cotton. Now, what is happening that because the farmers are getting subsidies through different policy, then the US is exporting more than 90% of their cotton production in the international market. It means the domestic subsidy becomes export subsidies, and it has impact on international prices. Now the C4 countries, namely Burkina Faso, Benin, Mali, Chad, they are also exporting more than 90% of their production in the international market. Now, if the international prices are depressed due to high subsidy given by rich countries, then these four countries, farm income will also go down. And it will badly affect their farm income. And you know that in 2003-04, it happened that prices so deep due to high subsidies, and it is well documented, that many farmers across globe, poor farmers, went to distress. And if I give the example of India, in southern part of India in 2003 and 4, many farmers committed suicide by consuming pesticide because they lost the livelihood, they lost the farm income. So it was a very, very bad situation. It happened that time. Now, if you see the ground situation of cotton farmers, you come to know that in US, there are big corporations. If number of farmers, if you count, it's only in 1,000. But In India, China, and Africa, it's million. Approximately million farmers are engaged in cotton farming. However, if you see the farm size in C4 countries or in African countries or other poor countries, the farm size is only 1 to 2 hectare, whereas in US, the farm size is 600 hectare. And despite this, the huge farm size, the farmers there, in US, get huge subsidies from the respective government. Whereas the poor farmers in poor countries, they are not able to get that much of subsidies. And they have to compete in the international market with the highly subsidized farmers of rich countries. Despite this, the cost of cultivation cost of cotton in C4 countries or India is very, very low in compared to the US. If there is no subsidy, then the share of C4 countries in export of cotton would go up, and their farm income will increase. Their livelihood security will increase. Their welfare will increase. Cotton is not only agriculture product, but is a way of life for many farmers. So we need to evaluate in this perspective how cotton subsidy can affect the welfare of the poor farmers. And you know that if you calculate per farmer subsidies of cotton subsidy, then US farmers is getting almost 1 lakh or 1 lakh US dollar subsidies, whereas in C4 country or India is less than 50 US dollar. Now, question arises, what kind of policy in different countries in the past or in current? In case of US have implemented different type of programs over the years. They are giving subsidies through crop insurance. They are giving product-specific support to cotton, like marketing loan they are giving. Even when there was a trade war between US and China, they have given huge subsidies by implementing a program like market facilitation program. Can you imagine these kind of subsidies or huge subsidies in any poor countries? Can Benin give? Can Mali government can give? Because they don't have that much of money. And further, there are millions of cotton farmers in poor countries. So it's very difficult to compete with the highly subsidized big corporation in US. In case of Brazil, China, India, European Union, they also supporting their farmers, and their policy is different. In some they are common, but different. But the level of support or subsidy is very low in compared to US. But yes, China in recent time has increased the subsidies. China is giving significant high level of subsidies to the cotton farmers at the moment. Now, what is the impact of these cotton subsidies? In this regard, I want to mention one article by Oxfam in 2002, Cultivating Poverty, where it mentioned, or the result shows that due to the high level of subsidies of rich countries has badly affected or adversely affected the farm income, GDP of poor countries, as well as livelihood security of millions of West African farmers. And many of the farmers went to distress. And this assessment or this result is also documented by many other literature and many other institutions as well. Now, what the C4 country, these poor countries are demanding at the WTO. What is the real issue? What is their demand at the WTO? What the C4 countries are asking that there should be an effective limit on countries to limit how much subsidy they can give. If, for instance, if US has high level of flexibility or huge flexibility, so they can give more than 200% of value of production as cotton subsidies. So C4 countries, what they are asking that this flexibility should be curtailed. If this flexibility is curtailed, then the US would not able to give high level of subsidies. And it's not only for US, for other countries, they are also asking the same, that we need to cut the cotton subsidy. And this issue has been raised since 2003 when they started cotton initiative. After that, lot of meetings happened of the WTO. Almost, you can say 20 years has been gone, but no effective outcome has come out at the moment. There's no effective outcome on disciplining the cotton subsidies. So why is there no outcome or consensus? Because there are vested interests, there are big corporations, they wanted high level of subsidies, there are lobby in rich countries, and they wanted to grow cotton based on the high level of subsidy. And then they are exporting in the international market. And when they export in the international market, it has impact on income of poor farmers in C4 countries as well as other West African countries. So overall, what I wanted to say that yes, we are celebrating the Cotton Day, is good, and we appreciate that we are celebrating cotton, given the importance of cotton in livelihood, food security for millions of poor people. However, if in true sense, Cotton Day would be more successful, or it will be in true sense, we will celebrate when we able to discipline or curtail the cotton subsidies, because just for the sake of to protect the interest of big corporation, and if government is giving high level of subsidies, it has impact on welfare of poor farmers in C4 countries, and it can push them in a vicious circle of poverty. And if we wanted a circle of prosperity, we need to have good discipline. We need to think about the poor people before celebrating this Cotton Day. And I also endorse the view of C4 countries that yes, we have to bring some new rules so that we can control these cotton subsidies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. That was brilliant, because I bet that a lot of us didn't know the dynamics, and so we appreciate that you give us like a non-technical overview on how it works. And so we organized for Mr. Sidibe to be here just so that he can give a perspective on the C4 countries as well. And so Simon, I hand it over to you because you will be facilitating the translation from French to English and vice versa. So handing over the moderating role to you.
Thank you very much, Mardia. So it's a privilege to introduce Mr. Sidibe, who I met in 2013 in Bamako. We did a piece of work together, and then later, I think around 2015 in Brussels, where we were launching a report with the Fair Trade Advocacy Office on how the European Union might be able to deal with some of the impacts of subsidies and support both producers but also industrialization in the region. I gather that I think the work is still going on. It's a long haul as always. AFROCA is the Association of African Cotton Producers. So it was created in December 2004 in Cotonou, where there was a big meeting of African countries looking at some of the various development problems. It brings together producers from West, Central, and Eastern Africa. And it has 15 members, which are Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Senegal, Chad, Togo, and Zambia. So most of the big African cotton producers. It has a vision of a cotton sector where producers live decently from a competitive and sustainable cotton production, supported by well-managed organizations that defend their interests. It has a mission to defend the interests of producers and the demands of African producers, to support national platforms, to help them influence reforms in cotton supply chains, with objectives to represent African cotton producers, notably on the problem of subsidies. I'm going to come to that. I think Mr. Sidibe is the perfect person to be leading the organization because he has experience of not just leading that organization, but previously working for the Compagnie Malienne de Développement du Textile, the cotton company in charge of the sector in Mali, coordinating various projects, and then also working with Aproca before being the executive secretary, helping to develop the organic and fair trade cotton sector across West Africa. So with that, Monsieur Sidibe, I'm going to pass in French now and ask Mr. Sidibe to just give us a brief statement on subsidies and Aproca's position on that. Monsieur Sidibe, donc maintenant je vais vous passer la parole pour nous dire ce que vous pensez des subventions et après je ferai la traduction pour nos auditeurs. Oh, vous êtes encore muté. Marcia, can you unmute?
Okay, I'm asking to mute. Here you go. We can hear you now.
Ok, attendez. Voilà.
We can't see you though now.
Je pense que, est-ce que j'ai réactivé mon son? Attendez, est-ce que j'ai mon son réactivé? Attendez.
Yeah, we can hear you now. On vous entend, Monsieur Sidibe.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, on vous entend maintenant. C'est on vous voit plus par contre.
Ok, parfait. Donc, je vous remercie beaucoup. D'abord, vous avez le bonjour de l'ensemble des membres du conseil d'administration de l'APROCA. Et il vous souhaite, il vous demande de bien fêter la fête, la journée mondiale du coton avec eux. Bon, en fait, sur les subventions, nous estimons aujourd'hui que, en fait, c'est un problème un peu... Le manque aujourd'hui de consensus à ce niveau, avec le fait qu'aujourd'hui, nous, on est au niveau des petits producteurs de coton en Afrique, nous sommes beaucoup impactés. Vous savez, les réformes engagées dans le secteur coton dans les années 90 ont surtout contribué, d'une part, à amorcer en fait une véritable implication des producteurs dans la filière, d'une part, mais d'autre part également, on a amorcé des réformes qui ont fait qu'aujourd'hui, les producteurs même sont... il y a des mécanismes de fixation des prix qui sont fixés, où le producteur est rémunéré sur la rémunération finale. C'est-à-dire ce que le coton génère au niveau mondial, c'est-à-dire le prix mondial. Donc, à ce niveau, s'il y a la subvention affecte ça. La subvention à l'exportation des grandes puissances, les États-Unis, l'Europe ou autre chose qui subventionnent leurs producteurs. Donc, ça fait en sorte que ça joue beaucoup sur, au plan macroéconomique d'abord, ça impacte nous les producteurs, et puisque le mécanisme là va faire en sorte que le mécanisme, si on applique le prix baisse, on ne tire pas le maximum de profit. Et si on applique ça aux mécanismes aujourd'hui qui sont adoptés au niveau de tous les pays, font que la part des producteurs, les ressources additionnelles auxquelles ils doivent attendre du coton pour améliorer leur quotidien ne suit pas. Ça, c'est un premier aspect. Donc, ça veut dire que nous pensons, nous estimons à notre niveau que il y a un double impact. Double impact dans la mesure, le premier impact est que ça joue sur les recettes d'exportation de nos pays. Nous, les pays africains, ça joue sur nos recettes d'exportation. Et si ça joue sur nos recettes d'exportation, nos États manquent de moyens pour venir aussi nous soutenir comme des mesures de soutien à la production. Donc, ça, c'est un premier niveau d'impact négatif. Le deuxième niveau, c'est ce que je disais tantôt, c'est par rapport au prix, c'est-à-dire la rémunération finale des acteurs. À ce niveau aussi, les acteurs, comme ils sont rémunérés en fonction des recettes globales de la filière, et que si cette recette est tributaire du prix de vente au marché mondial, il va sans dire que la répercussion sur les réserves, sur les revenus des producteurs en termes de rémunération finale soit affectée. Donc, c'est dire que nous avons constaté aussi que, voilà, un peu, nous subissons ça. Mais au finish, qu'est-ce qu'on peut dire? Nous estimons, depuis le sommet de Cancun, depuis Hong Kong, nous voyons que nous, les producteurs, vraiment, toujours on en parle, mais il n'y a jamais eu de solution. Il n'y a jamais eu de solution pour l'Afrique. On a essayé de passer par des formules intermédiaires. Bon, mais ce qui est sûr, c'est que les subventions à l'exportation du coton fibre, en ce qui concerne les pays producteurs de coton en Afrique, ne parviennent pas à trouver des solutions. Les mêmes subventions continuent et de la plus belle manière. Ça nous appauvrit davantage. Donc, c'est là, nous, à notre niveau, nous estimons que si, au lieu de faire le jeu des industries, la célébration de la Journée mondiale du coton doit pouvoir faire en sorte que on puisse accorder une importance particulière au traitement des millions de petits producteurs de coton que nous sommes. Je pense que ça, c'est vraiment important. Et aujourd'hui, nous estimons que le plaidoyer et le lobbying doivent continuer. Je pense que celle qui a été faite seulement à Cancun, on s'est limité à ce niveau. Après ça, même s'il y a des plaidoyers, les producteurs ne sont pas associés. Alors que pour nous, les producteurs doivent prendre le devant, et non les intermédiaires. Mais aujourd'hui, au niveau de l'OMC, c'est les intermédiaires. Parce que nous considérons les États et autres choses là comme les intermédiaires. Mais c'est les producteurs qui doivent tenir le lead dans le plaidoyer et le lobbying. Donc, vraiment, nous estimons que pour donner à la journée du 7 octobre, pour donner son véritable contenu, il faudra qu'on puisse trouver une issue, une solution à ce problème de subvention du coton. Donc, voilà un peu ce que je peux dire rapidement sur les subventions du coton. Au lieu d'accorder la priorité aux grandes entreprises, il faut accorder la priorité aux millions de petits producteurs pour que ces gens puissent améliorer leur quotidien. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Youssouf.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sidibe. That was. So I will now translate the statement into English. First is greetings from everybody at the APROCA Secretariat and the people watching on World Cotton Day. So APROCA's position on export subsidies is that the lack of consensus about them and cotton has negative repercussions on African cotton producers' revenues. And the reforms that begun in the sector in the 1990s mainly contributed to some taking into account of producers as actors in the supply chain, but secondly had impacts on their revenues. And for most countries, that meant adopting mechanisms to support supply chain actors through price supports for fiber on work markets. Those mechanisms placed emphasis on different supply chain actors. But among those, producers are the ones who are the least secure and who take the most risks. And that is, I think, a key point in why APROCA exists. So there is a question of trying to minimize the double impact on the producer of subsidies. The first of the impacts that really hurts countries at a macroeconomic level is the fall in export revenues, which Mr. Sharma also mentioned, which de facto limits the capacity for intervention at the level of the producers. And the second impact is that actors are remunerated according to the global takings of the sector. And if those takings are tributary to the terms of the final income, particularly again in countries that are in the global south. So since the Hong Kong summit of the World Trade Organization, the fight against subsidies for the export of cotton, as far as it concerns African cotton-growing countries, has been unable to find a solution, a way forward. And so those same subsidies continue as if nothing had happened, which has further impacts on the income and the wealth of small producers in the C4 countries. This means there's a permanent advocacy and lobbying action required from the Association of African Cotton Producers, whose capacities need strengthening institutionally, technically, and financially. And it has to be said, I think after talking to Mr. Sidibe yesterday, preparing for this, that their income is far too small to effectively do the work that's needed, because they depend for their revenue on cotton exports. And so the subsidies hurt not just the income of producers, but the income of those who are trying to fight for their rights in the global market. So that's a message to all donors out there. So that's the end of the statement.
Thank you so much, Monsieur Sidibe and Simon, for translation, and for all the ones that are joining us for the patient in like understanding this very, very difficult subject, I'd say. And so we're gonna just do a few questions, and please get the questions coming in the chat. Because we're going to tackle it in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to hear your opinion, Dr. Sharma, on what Monsieur Sidibe just commented, and then I have another follow-up question on that. I'm gonna unmute you, Dr. Sharma.
Just can you repeat the question, Madia, just once again?
No, just if you had a few comments on the statement that Mr. Sidibe just shared with us. And then actually, I'm gonna also phrase another question to you is, what is your actual ideal scenario regarding cotton subsidies in the next, let's say, 5 years?
Okay. Yeah, about the intervention by Mr. Sidibe. Yes, he also highlighted the impact of subsidies, and since Hong Kong ministerial meeting of 2005, and even before 2008, in 2003, at the Cancun ministerial meeting, this issue has been raised by Benin and other C4 countries, and this issue has been raised and again, because the cotton subsidy has badly affected the farm income as well as the GDP of these poor countries, which already Mr. Sidibe also highlighted in the presentation. And now question arises, what is the ideal situation for next 4 or 5 years, or what the way we are looking on this issue? Here at the WTO, there are 164 countries. They come together, they make rules about international trade, and they also make rules how much subsidy a government can give to a specific product like cotton. But the ideal situation, what the Benin or C4 countries or other Asian countries are asking, that curtail the flexibility to provide high level of subsidies. And for this, the C4 countries are also asking that curtail the flexibility of rich country up only so that they can give subsidy only up to 5% of value of production of cotton. They should not have high level of flexibility that they can give more than 100%, and then they say that their subsidy is compatible with the WTO rules. But the C4 countries are saying that please curtail this flexibility up to 5% of total value of production for rich countries and 10% for the poor countries like C4 countries or other poor countries. So this is the actual things we are demanding. Now, what happened at the actual ground? See, subsidy varies depending on the international prices. If international prices are low, then rich country have to give more subsidies to support their farmers. And if they're high, no need to give subsidies. So when the prices are very low in the cotton sector, then this rich country, they give high level of subsidy to sustain their agriculture, their cotton farmers. And these are not farmers, they're big corporation. And since between 1995 to 2020, US government has given $40 billion of cotton subsidies. 40 billion of US dollar. Can you imagine this? And even recent time, they are giving subsidies to the cotton. Then it's a market facilitation program they are giving. Their marketing loan they are giving. So there are high level of subsidies are there. So here the C4 countries are demanding that, okay, we need to curtail this flexibility, because if you curtail this flexibility, international prices can go up, because big corporation will not get the subsidies, their production will go down, and international prices go up, and C4 countries or farmers of C4 countries, they would get benefit. They would be more empowered. They will have very good standard living of standard. That's what we are also looking for next 4 or 5 years. That's the demand of poor countries. Thank you.
Which, by the way, I wanted to make a note, because we had a discussion about the terminology with Dr. Sharma as well, of poor, rich, developed, less developed countries, because a lot of this language has been used in the context of the World Trade Organization and the World Bank, etc. And it's still a language that we as Cotton Diaries communities, we don't feel very comfortable with, but we still have to have these common language because of these spaces. So we encourage also our network to raise these questions about, like, what is a poor and what is a rich country, what is developed and less developed. And I think we need to challenge a bit of our colonialistic views. You get me, views on these terminologies. I think we concluded that we agreed, but we still in a work in progress, let's say, on that. And thank you for this intervention. And to Mr. Sidibe and Simon, you have to help me translate this afterwards. I have a question around, because there was a recent resolution of the WTO on cotton subsidies that was around $300 million. And Simon, if you can give a little bit of an introduction to that. And then the question to Mr. Sidibe is, has the resolution of the WTO improved anything? And has it any good come out of that? So Simon, over to you. I'm going to ask you to mute.
Okay, so I'll just translate the question to Monsieur Sidibe. Monsieur Sidibe, la question pour vous est de savoir quel a été l'impact de la résolution à l'OMC qui avait déclenché un paiement de 300 millions de dollars. Est-ce que les pays du C4 en ont bénéficié? Est-ce que ça a changé quelque chose? So for people listening, the question is about, there was a resolution at the World Trade Organization where some $300 million were paid by the US following the complaints. I think the payment was managed by Brazil, if I recall rightly. And we're asking Mr. Sidibe to say what benefit the C4 countries might have had. Monsieur Sidibe, c'est à vous. Vous enlevez votre microphone.
Donc, je disais effectivement, bon, vous savez, si je dois parler aussi un peu de ces appuis de l'OMC, ben, bon, 300 millions de dollars, bon, c'est un peu peut-être que... mais comment ces montants, à travers des petits projets, peuvent contribuer par moment à améliorer les rendements. Mais ce qui est important, ça je vous le dis clairement, et c'est triste, ben, que très généralement, très souvent, ces appuis, à la limite, restent dans la majorité des cas au niveau intermédiaire, les producteurs ressentent très peu. C'est ça la réalité aussi. Parce que à qui ils sont destinés? Est-ce que ces appuis-là arrivent aux destinataires finaux, aux producteurs que nous sommes? C'est ça la réalité aussi. Donc, il s'agit, puisque dans la plupart des cas, à partir des négociations et autres choses, les producteurs, ils ne sont plus là. Hein. C'est les intermédiaires, c'est les États et les sociétés cotonnières qui sont là. À la limite, quand on vient, on initie quelques petits projets pour augmenter les rendements. Et au-delà de ça, absolument rien. Donc, moi, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, il s'agit de revoir. Il s'agit de revoir et de repositionner les actions et impliquer beaucoup plus les producteurs, c'est-à-dire les producteurs à travers leur organisation pour la conduite de ces projets. Il ne s'agit pas de donner de l'argent, hein, non. Si on veut initier des actions, des projets qui soient où des producteurs doivent avoir la maîtrise d'ouvrage. C'est ça qui est important. Ils doivent contrôler les actions à entreprendre. Ils peuvent faire en sorte que les rendements au champ peuvent être améliorés. Et moi, je pense qu'à ce niveau, la solution viendra à ce niveau. Sinon, on va injecter de l'argent et peut-être que 10% seulement ne vont parvenir qu'aux producteurs. Voilà, merci.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sidibe. So the translation, so basically the money, there have been a few small projects, mostly on improving yields, but my video back on, I switch it off while I'm scribbling so that I don't distract people. So small projects have to improve yields, but most of the funds, Mr. Sidibe says, do not reach the farmers. Mainly they go to cotton companies or to the governments. And he says that for these funds to have an impact, they must go straight to producers through their own organizations, that is the national unions. Otherwise, you're lucky if maybe 10% of the funds reach the farmers.
Je vais ajouter parce que c'est vraiment important, parce que c'est souvent même ces montants qui sont injectés dans le processus. À la limite, les producteurs lambda n'est pas au courant. Hein. Vous allez demander les 15 pays, vous allez voir les producteurs, ils ne sont pas dedans. C'est des charges de structure. Nous pensons aujourd'hui qu'il faudra vraiment aller, c'est-à-dire plus la chaîne des intermédiaires est longue, plus le schéma, pratiquement rien. On ne dit pas de donner, qu'on initie des projets à ce stade-là, si l'OMC veut aller, qu'on puisse aller vraiment sur des secteurs de manière à impliquer les producteurs dans le processus. C'est ça.
So he's saying that, just really adds that many producers will not even know that money has been given or received as compensation. So it's really, really important that the money goes directly to producer organizations, not to intermediaries.
Great. Thanks, Simon, for the translation, and merci beaucoup, Mr. Sidibe. And we have also a special guest, which is Simon's cat, sometimes popping in. So, and then I wanted to ask a final question to you both, and maybe Simon, you can also add if you have any idea, because we are here as I think most of the people that will tune in are from the fashion and textile sector. And I think we're very eager to know, okay, we understand that there is an issue. It's a big issue, and it's somehow so far from the everyday practice that we do in this industry. So what should, in your opinion, the fashion and textile industry be concerned about and actually act upon? What would that, what would that look like? Dr. Sharma, over to you first, and then we can translate it for Monsieur Sidibe.
Thank you, Madia. It's really a very good question about what fashion industry can do about it. From economist point of view, just I want to mention one thing, that if government is giving subsidies to the cotton, okay, then cotton prices will low. And then for industry, it will be good. It's because you can make more profit because your raw material is low. So from this industry point of view, but we have also to see that the raw material, the cotton, which is the base of the textile industry, whether that the prices of the output, the cotton, whether it give remunerative, you can say, or good income to poor farmers, yes or no, that we have to look at. And what the industry can do, you people are very influential. You are fashion industry people are in the media, social media, you are print media, electronic media, you have the voice, and you can become the voice of these poor people, this marginalized section of, you can say, agricultural system. You can raise this voice that yes, subsidies of one country is affecting the livelihood and food security of other farmers, and people will listen to you. You have so many, you have connected, you have good network of people, and some of this marginalized section, they are not able to raise their voice, they're not able to organize themselves, and you people can become their champion. And that's what I recommend you, that as a fashion industry, you people have to come forward and share with the high level or the relevant people that yes, the subsidy of rich country uh, can make life worse for the poor farmers in C4 countries. Though we will keep celebrating the cotton days, but if we are really genuine to ourselves or genuine to the cause, then yes, we have to control the subsidy, and here the fashion industry as have to come together, and they need to become the champion of these poor farmers. Thank you.
What a powerful message. Yeah, I hope that, I know that's not many people live at the moment, but probably a lot of people will join watching after. And I think it's a good reflection for all of us. And that's what we try to do at Cotton Diaries, to just give a little bit more platform to people that are not normally in our spaces. And they're not very listened to in our sectors. And so, Simon, would you like to translate the question for Mr. Sidibe, and then let's see what he thinks.
Non, Monsieur Sidibe, la même question pour vous, c'est donc de savoir comment l'industrie de mode, l'industrie textile peut aider à résoudre cette question des subventions et des inégalités. Voilà, à vous.
Bon, en fait, merci beaucoup pour la question. Et moi, je trouve même que la question est très bienvenue, puisque nous, on a déjà au niveau de l'APROCA, l'Association des producteurs de coton africains, nous avons déjà un peu perçu ça, de manière à ce que, si nous regardons un peu la filière, elle agit entre les acteurs, elle est de façon verticale, hein, entre les acteurs. C'est-à-dire, il y a le producteur, les grainaires, le filataire, et il y a le filataire, il y a le tisseur, le tissage et l'ameublissement, la mode. Bon, nous avons vu qu'aujourd'hui, au lieu d'une approche verticale entre les acteurs, qu'on puisse aller vers une approche horizontale. C'est pourquoi, et nous avons voulu expérimenter ça à travers le coton biologique équitable, qui est une production qui est là. Les grandes, on a vu que ça pourrait intéresser et les marques, les filataires. Donc nous avons créé une coalition. Et cette coalition prend en compte, qu'on appelle coalition, la CCBE, la coalition pour le développement, la CCBE. Donc, qui veut dire coalition pour le coton biologique et équitable. Donc, nous avons créé ça, c'est cette approche qui est là, qui regroupe et les producteurs, et qui regroupe et les producteurs, et les filataires, et les industriels, et les égrenaires, et même la mode, de manière à ce qu'on puisse avoir un fonds commun pour pouvoir soutenir la production, de manière à ce qu'ils puissent avoir que ce soit jusqu'à l'utilisateur final, que chacun contribue de façon générale à améliorer, qu'il y ait une répartition équitable des recettes sur la filière. Donc, nous estimons qu'aujourd'hui, l'industrie de la mode du vêtement peut beaucoup contribuer pour peut beaucoup nous aider à améliorer les revenus de l'ensemble des acteurs. Et moi, je pense que c'est important. Pour avoir un monde juste, il faudra que chacun accepte de laisser une partie de soi-même. Et c'est dans ça aussi que nous estimons qu'il y a la durabilité. Et c'est dans ça où nous estimons qu'il y a la durabilité. Et même pour la CCBE, je le disais tout de suite, qu'on a créé avec Écosse, avec Fibel, des acteurs suisses, et même Textile Exchange avec Silvertonian. Donc, nous sommes en train de voir aujourd'hui comment pouvoir mettre une plateforme multi-acteurs autour de ces productions. Bon, moi, c'est pour faire en sorte que tous les acteurs, que ce soit la mode, que ce soit les filatures, tout le monde puisse contribuer pour avoir une répartition équitable des ressources du coton. Donc, c'est dire qu'aujourd'hui, nous devons, l'industrie de la mode, l'industrie du textile, chacun doit pouvoir jouer sa partition pour qu'ensemble, nous puissions fêter la journée mondiale du coton dans un monde beaucoup plus juste, pour que le coton il soit blanc pour tous les acteurs, pas seulement pour les grands industriels, mais pour tous les acteurs, que chacun dans un partenariat gagnant-gagnant, dans un partenariat multi-acteurs gagnant-gagnant. Nous estimons que c'est avec ça qu'on peut aller de l'avant et que le système peut être beaucoup plus durable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sidibe. So I'll try and summarize that quickly. So he says, thank you for the question, and it's a very welcome one. And he says the thing, you have to look at things differently in the future. At the moment, supply chains are vertical, they're top down. And he says we need horizontal links, and that this has been explored already with fair trade organic cotton, with the creation of the Cotton Coalition in West Africa with support from partners in Switzerland. And this brings producers together with spinners, ginners, the fashion industry, and that they have a common fund that helps support production and producers, that makes sure that profits are shared and that contributes to revenues for a more just world. And he says this is sustainability, having this different relationship. They're in the process of building on the multi-stakeholder initiative with other actors coming in like Textile Exchange, and that everyone has a role to play in that for the World Cotton Day in the future that delivers for everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Sidibe. And I think after we post this video, we will share the link of the Cotton Coalition as well. And we have only 2 minutes left. I can't believe it went really... but I just wanted one more question, because we have it from our Cotton Diaries community member, Tamika Peoples, who actually does work quite a lot with Burkina Faso cotton. And so I think it's over to you, Dr. Sharma, if that's something that you can answer, but how do subsidies impact normal procurement pathways? You have a minute to reply, otherwise we can also follow up in our chat, I think.
Majid, can you repeat the question? I'm not able to.
Yeah. How do subsidies impact normal procurement pathways? So how do subsidy impact the way that normal traders buy cotton?
Okay,
that's how I understand it.
Okay, how cotton subsidy impact the trade? That's the question, if I get it.
The procurement.
The procurement. buying, how is going to be. See, if you are giving rich country are giving subsidies, or any country is giving subsidies, then what will happen that the prices will be down. See, when the cotton prices is low, that time you give subsidies to the cotton, and because subsidized cotton, because if you wanted to buy, if there is subsidized cotton, you will buy more. But the issue here is that subsidized cotton, like the procurement, that with the subsidy given, you can procure from the subsidized farmers, but you will not. But you will not procure from the poor farmers who are not subsidized. So the farmers who are not subsidized, their interest would be hampered. So it will impact. So it means that subsidized cotton, or farmers who rich farmers who have high level of subsidies, they will enjoy artificial comparative advantage. They will enjoy more market at the expense of the poor farmers. That's how subsidy will impact the procurement, and that's how it reflect in the farm income of the poor farmers, and they will not get good return from their output.
Right. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think we covered actually the question in the chat as well. It's to the hour, so I just want to very much thank you, both of you, and Simon for the translation, which I don't know why my English tongue twisting today is super. I think I'm a bit nervous to be around such experts, I think. So that's why. And anyway, thank you all, and thank you for the one that joined us, kept patient in this, like, unpacking this heavy subject. It's the first, hopefully, opening of this conversation in the textile and fashion sector, and we will have hopefully more of these conversations. And thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. Thank you, Mr. Sidibe. Bye, Simon.